Hello my friends and welcome once again to a Red Gaming Tech video, myself and Marta, where I'm here as always with a bundle of joy in the form of the latest tech news in the last 24 or so hours. We're going to start things off today with a Tiger Lake benchmark, and this was helpfully tweeted by Tom Apisak, a name you should be very familiar with by this point. He has leaked a lot of stuff, as I'm sure you're familiar with by now. So what do we actually see in the listing? Well, it's a Geekbench benchmark, and it is going to be a Tiger Lake U processor that we actually see here. In terms of specifications, it does only come in at 4 cores and 8 threads with a base frequency of 1.19 GHz. However, despite that fact, it actually does pretty well. We see a single core score of 1189 and a multi-core score of 4274. There is also a second listing for the same processor on a slightly different configuration, mind, where the scores are pretty damn similar. We see a score of 1162 for the single core, and for the multi-core score we do see 4047 being shown here. Now, as I said, this is pretty impressive. Despite those slightly low clock speeds for Tiger Lake, it does beat a quad-core CPU in the form of the i7-10710U Comet Lake chip, which has 6 cores and 12 threads. So even though it has a higher base clock of 1.61 GHz, it has been surpassed in both single and multi-core tests by the Tiger Lake U chip that we're discussing here. And it also outpaces the Ice Lake U based chip, the 1065G7. So we can make an interesting assumption based on this. So assuming Willow Cove is actually a Rocket Lake backport, in theory, if scaled up to a 10-core desktop for Rocket Lake, it should outperform much better than a 10-core Comet Lake, assuming similar clock speeds. But that's assumptions, piled upon assumptions there, but still, a lot of potential here. But even just taking this as it is, it's still a very impressive showing from the Tiger Lake processor. But let's move over from Intel, shall we, to AMD. Basically what we have seen is the Ryzen 9 3900X doing very well for itself in overclocking, thanks to some tests by the Australian overclocker Sean Fosmark. Of course, you can find a link to his original tweet in the description below this video. Go give him a follow. I have already done so. Anyway, so what did he actually have to share with us? Well, in his tests, the Ryzen 9 3900X 12-core at 5.6 GHz actually bests the Intel i9 9920X overclocked at 6 GHz. So what do we actually have in terms of the setup here? Well, unsurprisingly, we are seeing liquid nitrogen being used here. I shouldn't really need to point that out. It should be fairly obvious at insane overclocks like this, but it is worth mentioning that this is not a home setup that we're talking about here. So we're talking also a voltage of 1.8 volts was supplied to the processor and 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM at 4400 megahertz, and this was a G-Skill Trident Z. And he tested it on W Prime 1024M, and if you look at the link in his tweet, there's a hwbots.org link there as well, and you can see his rankings for this. And as you can quite plainly see, the W Prime score is now the top score for the Ryzen 9 3900X and the second highest score in the global 12-core rank list. As for that score actually was, it finished in 35.51 seconds and the 32M run in 1.797 seconds. But he didn't just beat records in this particular benchmark, he also beat them in Cinebench R15. They managed to top the 12-core leaderboard with the 3900X, clocked at 5.6 GHz again, scoring 4461 points in the multi-thread compared to the 9920X, which scored 4025 once again with that overclock of 5.92. So, some really cool overclocks here, some very impressive results got by Sean here, and some very impressive results from the 3900X. So, go check out his tweet, go check out his link, you can see way more information there. Look forward to seeing what else the Ryzen series has in store for us in the future. But let's move on from the world of PC to the world of console, as we have something from the Xbox Series X up next. So obviously we had a surprise reveal of the console very recently. Paul has discussed that at length And I'm sure you've already heard everything about the Xbox Series X from basically everyone under the surface, or on the surface of the earth, sorry, should I say. I have to say, I'm really still not keen on that name, Xbox Series X. The other day, I took off topic slightly. I discussed the fact that Phil Spencer was like, yeah, the name is going to be all about its capabilities and yada yada yada. And I was like, guess what it is going to be in the comments? Let's see who gets the closest. And I don't think anyone came close. I'm going to double check, but yeah, no. Anyway, so while we had that reveal the other day, we are fully expecting the full reveal at E3, because that would make sense, right? Well, not according to a recent podcast, Xbox Era podcast. According to Special Ed on that particular podcast, we're actually going to be seeing a full reveal of the next-gen console just before E3, and we're also going to be seeing Elden Ring as well. And I would love to see Elden Ring at 2020, at E3 2020, should I say, or even just before it, That is a game I am very hyped for. I love From Software. I'm a From Software fangirl. Sue me, okay? So when can we actually expect the reveal? Here you ask. Well, according to his information, it's either going to be in April or May. And once again, they are expecting Elden Ring to be shown here as well. And if this is the case, if it's showing at the same reveal as the Xbox Series X, it's going to be next gen as well, which make perfect sense. At the moment, it has only been announced for current gen and PC, excluding the Switch, of course. But I would not be surprised at all to see it on both the PS5 and Xbox Series X. Maybe we'll see timed exclusivity there for the next-gen console, but I don't know about that. We'll see. So we'll have to wait and see, of course, to see how true this ends up being. It would be a little surprising to see them not tout this at E3, because I would fully expect Sony to be doing something at E3, given that they gave it a miss this year. But maybe they just want to focus on the games at E3, and that's why, because this would take up a significant amount of time. That would make sense. I think after the fairly, not lackluster, but kind of middling year game-wise this year, they want to really hit it out of the park and show how many games they're going to have for the system. The fact that it was already been revealed is going to help, I think. So it would make sense, but we'll have to wait and see. But speaking of games, got an interesting thing next from Capcom. So what we have is a tweet by tmark365, and I came across this on the r/PC gaming subreddit. You can find a link to the tweet and the subreddit thread in the description below this video. So what do we see here? Well, basically we see filings for Dino Crisis, Power Stone and more from Capcom, and immediately my hype senses are tingling, because Dino Crisis would be amazing. Imagine if they use the RE engine to remake Dino Crisis. Power Stone is not one that I'm personally familiar with, but Dino Crisis absolutely is. And I think with how much they've just absolutely knocked it out of the park, Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 is looking really promising as well. Dino Crisis would be a solid get for a non-Resident Evil remake for Capcom to tackle, or maybe even just a new game. That would also be fine. So, for those of you wondering about the other games, we have Battle Circuit, Cyberbots, and Powered Gear, as well as, of course, Dino Crisis and Power Stone. Now, obviously, this is far from an announcement, but would be very, very cool. A trademark existing means they're at least looking at it. Be a while before we see it, but maybe they'll surprise us with something. I have to say, Capcom have definitely kind of saved themselves a little bit, because, they were really going downhill for a while, and they've clawed it back. So let's not lose it now by messing this one up. And to be honest, they have a wealth of franchises to choose from if they wanted to revive any of them. Obviously, a lot of them are still going. Devil May Cry is still going, of course. Ace Attorney is still doing its thing. Resident Evil is still doing its thing, naturally. But, things like Okami, Onimusha, that sort of thing. I would love a new Okami game. Like an Okami 2, a proper sequel. I know there was that one on the 3DS. But that's not what I mean. I mean a real sequel to Okami. That would be fantastic. That is one of my favourite games on the PS2. Capcom, I highly doubt you're listening, but if you are, please, I'm asking nicely. Okay? Thanks. Anyway, so yeah, they've got a ton of IP they could use, so after the success of Resident Evil, I'm not really surprised they're thinking about looking elsewhere, and I think Dino Crisis is a solid place to start. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. What out of what franchises they own would you like to see them tackle? Love to hear your input in the comments below, but Thank you so much for watching. As always, your support is highly appreciated. Do remember to like and subscribe. It does help out a great deal. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.